The sleek Prillian ship glided into Earth's orbit, its iridescent hull gleaming in the sunlight. On the observation deck of the International Space Station, Dr. Aria Novak held her breath. After years of searching the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, humanity's first contact was about to begin. Aria's heart raced as she watched the alien vessel dock with practiced precision. As the lead xenobiologist on the welcoming committee, she had spent months preparing for this moment. The Krylians had responded to Earth's deep space transmissions, initiating a dialogue that had led to this historic meeting. The airlock hissed open, and Aria's eyes widened as the Krylian delegation emerged. They were tall, easily 7 feet in height, with slender builds and skin that shimmered with a faint blue luminescence. But it was their eyes that captivated Aria, large, almond-shaped, and filled with an intelligence that seemed to pierce right through her. At the forefront of the group stood a Krylian who seemed to command respect from the others. He, at least, Aria assumed it was a he, stepped forward, his movements fluid and graceful. "Greetings, people of Earth," the Krylian spoke, his voice resonating with a musical quality that Aria found oddly soothing. "I am Zexalo, chief diplomat of the Krylian Consortium. We come in peace and with great curiosity about your world." Aria stepped forward, her training kicking in despite her awe. "Welcome to Earth, Zexalo. I'm Dr. Aria Novak, lead xenobiologist for this mission. On behalf of humanity, we're honored to meet you." As their eyes met, Aria felt a strange jolt, as if some invisible connection had been forged between them. Zexalo's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer than necessary, and Aria found herself wondering if he had felt it too. The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions, preliminary discussions, and cultural exchanges. Aria's mind raced as she tried to absorb every detail about the Krylians, their language, their customs, their incredible technology that seemed to border on magic. As the initial meetings concluded, Zexalo approached Aria. "Dr. Novak, I must say, your species' adaptability and thirst for knowledge is impressive. I look forward to working closely with you in the coming days." Aria smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "The feeling is mutual, Zexalo. There's so much we can learn from each other." Little did they know, their collaboration would lead to discoveries that would shake the foundations of both their worlds. In the following weeks, Aria found herself spending more and more time with Zexalo. They worked together on establishing communication protocols between their species, sharing scientific knowledge, and exploring the vast differences and surprising similarities between their cultures. Aria was fascinated by Zexalo's tales of Krylian history, their advanced sustainable technology, and their deep connection to the cosmic energies that permeated the universe. In turn, Zexalo seemed endlessly curious about human emotions, art, and the complex social structures that defined Earth's various cultures. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck watching the Earth rotate slowly below them, Zexalo turned to Aria. "Your world is beautiful, Aria, so full of life, of passion. It's intoxicating." Aria felt her pulse quicken at the intensity in Zexalo's eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "I've always thought so, but seeing it through your eyes, it's like rediscovering its beauty all over again." Their hands brushed accidentally, and Aria felt that same jolt of electricity she had experienced when they first met. This time, she was certain Zexalo had felt it too. He looked at their hands, then back at her face, a mix of confusion and fascination in his expression. I apologize," Zexalo said, his normally confident voice wavering slightly. "I'm experiencing sensations I don't quite understand. Is this normal for your species?" Aria took a deep breath, her scientific mind warring with the emotions swirling inside her. "It's called attraction, Zexalo. It's complicated." As they stood there, the stars twinkling above and the earth spinning below, Aria realized they were stepping into uncharted territory. The implications of a human and a Krylian developing feelings for each other were enormous, potentially world-changing. But in that moment, as Zexalo's hand tentatively reached for hers again, Aria found she didn't care about the consequences. She was on the brink of the greatest discovery of her life, not just as a scientist, but as a human being. As their fingers intertwined, Aria knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The future of human-Krillian relations hung in the balance, and she and Zexalor were at the very heart of it all. As weeks turned into months, Aria and Zexalor's relationship deepened, transcending professional boundaries. They found themselves seeking each other's company even outside of their official duties, sharing quiet moments in the space station's hydroponics bay, or discussing the mysteries of the universe late into the night cycle. Their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed. Dr. Marcus Chen, Aria's colleague and friend, pulled her aside one day after a joint human-Krillian briefing. "Aria, what's going on between you and the alien diplomat? You two seem close." Aria felt her cheeks flush. "We're just working well together, Marcus. It's important for interspecies relations." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Interspecies relations, huh? Just be careful. We don't know enough about the Krillians yet. This could complicate things." But Aria couldn't help herself. The more time she spent with Zexalor, the more she felt drawn to him. His intellect challenged her, his alien perspective opened her mind to new possibilities, and his gentle nature touched something deep within her heart. One evening, as they worked late in the laboratory, analyzing the genetic structures of various Earth and Krillian species, Zexalor suddenly placed his hand over Aria's. "Aria," he said, his voice low and intense, "I need to understand something. These feelings I have for you, they're not typical among my people. We don't form pair bonds the way humans do. But with you, I feel different, complete." Aria's heart raced. "Zexalor, I feel it too. But what does this mean for us, for our peoples?" Zexalor's luminescent skin pulsed with emotion. "I don't know, but I want to find out, if you're willing." In that moment, surrounded by the sterile equipment of the lab, Aria made a decision that would change the course of history. She leaned in and pressed her lips to Zexalor's. The kiss was unlike anything either of them had experienced. It was a meeting of two worlds, two species, two hearts. As they pulled apart, both breathless and wide-eyed, they knew there was no going back. Their relationship blossomed in secret, stolen moments between official meetings and research sessions. They explored the differences in their physiologies with scientific curiosity and growing passion. Aria marveled at the way Zexalor's skin would glow brighter when they touched, while Zexalor was fascinated by the rapid beating of Aria's heart. But as their love grew, so did the complications. The Krillian delegation was due to return to their homeworld soon, taking Zexalor with them. The thought of separation was unbearable to both of them. "Come with me," Zexalor pleaded one night as they lay intertwined in Aria's quarters. "You could be the first human to visit Kryll. Think of all we could learn together." Aria's heart ached at the temptation. "You know I can't, Zexalor. My work, my family. I can't just leave everything behind." They fell into a troubled silence, the weight of their impossible situation hanging heavy between them. As the day of the Krillian departure drew near, Aria and Zexalor became increasingly desperate to find a solution. They considered every possibility, from Zexalor staying behind on Earth to Aria secretly stowing away on the Krillian ship. But fate had other plans for them. 3 days before the scheduled departure, Aria woke feeling strange. Her body felt different, off balance somehow. As a scientist, she immediately began to analyze her symptoms, running through possible explanations. It wasn't until she ran a full biometric scan on herself that the impossible truth came to light. The results stared back at her from the screen, undeniable and world-changing. She was pregnant. With shaking hands, Aria ran the test again, and again. Each time, the result was the same. Somehow, against all odds and everything they thought they knew about xenobiology, she was carrying Zexalor's child. As the realization sank in, Aria's mind reeled with the implications. This wasn't just a personal matter anymore. The existence of a human-Krillian hybrid would change everything: scientific understanding, diplomatic relations, the very future of both their species. With her heart pounding, Aria made her way to Zexalor's quarters. As the door slid open and she saw his concerned face, she took a deep breath. "Zexalor," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we need to talk. Something impossible has happened." As she shared the news, Zexalor's expression shifted from confusion to awe to determination. He took her hands in his skin glowing brighter than she had ever seen. "Aria," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "whatever happens, we'll face it together. This child, it's a miracle, a bridge between our worlds. We'll find a way to make this work." As they embraced, both terrified and exhilarated by the journey ahead, neither of them could have predicted the storm that was about to break over their heads, a storm that would test their love, challenge both their species, and potentially reshape the future of the galaxy. The news of Aria's pregnancy spread through the space station like wildfire. Within hours, both the human and Krillian delegations were in an uproar. Emergency meetings were called, heated debates erupted, and the once cordial atmosphere between the two species became tense with uncertainty and fear. Dr. Marcus Chen, upon hearing the news, rushed to find Aria. He found her in the medical bay, undergoing yet another series of tests. "Aria, what have you done?" he asked, his voice a mix of concern and disbelief. "Do you have any idea of the consequences this could have?" Aria met his gaze steadily. "I know, Marcus, but this is bigger than just me or Zexalor. This child could be the key to understanding both our species on a level we never thought possible." Meanwhile, the Krillian delegation was facing its own turmoil. Many viewed the pregnancy as a violation of their strictly controlled genetic lineages. Zexalor found himself facing harsh criticism from his peers, particularly from Narazin, the lead Krillian scientist. "You've compromised everything, Zexalor," Narazin hissed, her skin pulsing with angry red hues. "Our mission was to study the humans, not mate with them. The consortium will demand answers." Zexalor stood his ground. "This was unplanned, Narazin, but it's not a mistake. This child represents a new frontier of possibility for both our peoples." As tensions rose, Earth's governments and the Krillian consortium demanded immediate action. The space station was put under lockdown, with all non-essential personnel evacuated. Aria found herself at the center of a political and scientific storm, her body now the subject of intense scrutiny and debate. Through it all, Zexalor remained by her side, fierce in his protection and unwavering in his support. They faced a barrage of tests, interviews, and examinations together, their love growing stronger in the face of adversity. Dr. Elena Rossi, Earth's leading expert in xenobiology, was brought in to oversee Aria's case. As she reviewed the initial test results, her eyes widened in amazement. "This is extraordinary," she breathed, looking up at Aria and Zexalor. "The fetus appears to be perfectly viable. It's exhibiting a unique genetic structure that combines elements of both human and Krillian DNA in ways we never thought possible." Aria felt a mix of relief and trepidation. "So the baby is healthy?" Dr. Rossi nodded, a hint of excitement creeping into her professional demeanor. "More than healthy. If these readings are correct, this child could possess abilities beyond anything we've seen in either species." The implications of Dr. Rossi's words hung heavy in the air. A child with the potential to bridge two worlds, possessing unknown capabilities, it was both thrilling and terrifying. As news of the pregnancy's viability spread, opinions on Earth and Kryll began to diverge sharply. Some saw the unborn child as a symbol of hope, a living embodiment of the potential for cooperation between their species. Others viewed it as a threat, a dangerous unknown that could upset the balance of power. Protesters on both planets took to the streets. Signs reading "Protect Human Purity" clashed with others proclaiming "Embrace Galactic Unity." The once celebrated first contact between humans and Krillians had become a flashpoint of controversy. Amidst the chaos, Aria and Zexalor found moments of quiet joy. Late one night, as they lay in bed, Aria gasped, placing Zexor's hand on her slightly swollen belly. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, eyes wide with wonder. Zexor's skin pulsed with a soft, warm glow. "It's moving," he said, all evident in his voice. "Our child is moving." In that moment, the universe seemed to shrink to just the three of them, Aria, Zexor, and the miraculous life growing within her. Despite the storm raging around them, they found strength in their love and their shared hope for the future. But their moment of peace was short-lived. The next morning, they were summoned to an emergency joint session of Earth's United Nations and the Krillian Consortium. As they made their way to the conference room, flanked by security personnel, Aria and Zexor exchanged a look of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. For themselves, for their unborn child, and for the future of both their worlds. As the doors to the conference room slid open, revealing a sea of anxious and curious faces from both species, Aria took a deep breath. She placed a protective hand over her stomach, feeling the gentle movement of the life within. "Ready?" Zexor asked softly, his hand finding hers. Aria nodded, squeezing his hand. "Ready. Let's show them what the future could be." Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, prepared to fight for their love and the unprecedented possibility their child represented. The fate of two worlds now rested in their hands, and in the tiny heartbeat that pulsed between them. The joint session of Earth's United Nations and the Krillian Consortium was a tense affair. Aria and Zexor stood before the assembled delegates, their hands clasped tightly as they faced a barrage of questions, accusations, and demands. Earth's Secretary-General, Amara Okafor, spoke first. "Dr. Novak, while we understand that your situation was unplanned, it has created a diplomatic crisis of unprecedented proportions. What do you have to say for yourself?" Aria stood tall, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Madam Secretary-General, esteemed delegates, I understand your concerns, but I ask you to see this not as a crisis, but as an opportunity. This child represents the possibility of true unity between our species." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. From the Krillian side, High Counselor Vexthar leaned forward, his luminescent skin pulsing with barely contained emotion. "And what of the potential threat this hybrid poses? We know nothing of how your combined genetics will manifest. This child could be dangerous." Zexor stepped forward, his normally calm demeanor replaced by fierce determination. "With all due respect, High Counselor, that is precisely why this child is so important. The knowledge we gain could advance both our species by centuries." The debate raged on for hours. Scientists argued about genetic implications, politicians debated sovereignty issues, and ethicists raised questions about the rights of an unprecedented life form. As the session stretched into its fifth hour, a commotion outside the chamber caught everyone's attention. The doors burst open, revealing Dr. Elena Rossi, her face flushed with excitement. "Forgive the interruption," she said breathlessly, "but I have critical new information about the fetus." All eyes turned to her as she activated a holographic display. "Our latest scans have revealed something extraordinary. The hybrid fetus is developing neural pathways unlike anything we've seen in humans or Krillians. It appears to be adapting, evolving in real time to combine the strengths of both species." The room erupted into chaos. Some delegates saw this as confirmation of their worst fears, while others recognized the immense potential it represented. Amidst the uproar, Aria felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. She doubled over, gasping. Zexor was at her side in an instant, his face etched with concern. "Aria, what's wrong?" Before she could answer, her body was enveloped in a soft, blue glow, emanating not from Zexor, but from within her own skin. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the unprecedented sight. Dr. Rossi rushed forward, scanner in hand. "Incredible," she whispered. "The fetus appears to be protecting itself. And Aria." As the glow faded, Aria straightened, the pain gone. She looked at her hands in wonder, then at the stunned faces around her. "I think," she said slowly, "our child just made its own argument for its right to exist." The incident changed the tone of the discussions. Fear was still present, but it was now tinged with awe and the recognition that they were witnessing something truly unprecedented. In the days that followed, a tenuous agreement was reached. Aria and Zexalor would be moved to a specially constructed research facility on neutral ground, a small, unclaimed island in the Pacific. There, under the joint supervision of human and Krillian scientists, the pregnancy would be monitored and the child would be born and raised. As Aria and Zexalor prepared for their move, they found a moment of quiet on the observation deck where their relationship had first blossomed. "Are you scared?" Zexalor asked, his hand resting gently on Aria's growing belly. Aria smiled, placing her hand over his. "Terrified," she admitted, "but also excited. We're at the beginning of something amazing, Zexalor, something that could change everything." As they gazed out at the stars, both felt a sense of destiny. Their love had created something beyond themselves, a bridge between worlds that held the potential to reshape the galaxy. But even as hope bloomed, shadows were gathering. Not everyone was willing to accept this new reality. On both Earth and Kryll, factions were forming, determined to put an end to what they saw as an abomination. As Aria and Zexalor's ship departed for their island's sanctuary, they were unaware of the storm brewing behind them, a conflict that would test their love, challenge their convictions, and ultimately determine the fate of their child and the future of interstellar relations. The journey to parenthood is never easy, but for Aria and Zexalor, it would be a journey that would reshape the very stars themselves. The island facility, dubbed Haven by its inhabitants, was a marvel of human and Krillian engineering. Sleek buildings with curved lines and shimmering surfaces housed state-of-the-art laboratories and living quarters. A protective dome arched over the entire complex, its translucent surface allowing sunlight while shielding the inhabitants from prying eyes and potential threats. Aria and Zexalor settled into their new home, finding a strange sort of peace amidst the constant medical checkups and scientific scrutiny. As Aria's pregnancy progressed, the changes in her body became more pronounced. Her skin occasionally flickered with a soft blue luminescence, reminiscent of Zexalor's, and she'd found herself developing heightened senses. Dr. Elena Rossi, who had relocated to Haven to oversee the pregnancy, was beside herself with excitement. "The fetus continues to adapt and evolve," she explained during one examination. "It's as if it's creating an entirely new species, optimized for both Earth and Kryll." But not everyone shared her enthusiasm. Dr. Marcus Chen, who had also joined the Haven team, often wore a troubled expression. "We're treading in unknown waters," he warned. "The implications of this hybrid could be far-reaching and potentially dangerous." Zexalor, ever protective, bristled at such comments. "Our child is not a threat," he insisted. "It's the future." As Aria entered her third trimester, disturbing reports began to filter in from both Earth and Kryll. Extremist groups were gaining traction, spreading fear about the alien threat and the corruption of pure bloodlines. Protests turned violent, and there were whispers of plots to attack Haven. One evening, as Aria and Zexalor enjoyed a rare moment of calm on the beach, an urgent message came through from Narazin, Zexalor's former colleague who had become an unlikely ally. "You're in danger," her holographic form flickered with agitation. "A coalition of human and Krillian extremists is planning an attack on Haven. They want to terminate the pregnancy." The news sent shockwaves through the facility. Security measures were doubled, and plans were made for emergency evacuation. But where could they go that would be safe from those who feared what this child represented? Aria, despite the growing discomfort of her pregnancy, threw herself into finding a solution. "We need to show them," she insisted during a strategy meeting. "Make them understand that our baby isn't a threat, but a bridge." It was decided that they would make a public broadcast, appealing directly to the people of both worlds. As the technicians set up the equipment, Aria felt a flutter of movement in her belly. She placed a hand over the spot, smiling softly. "It's okay, little one," she whispered. "We're going to make sure you have a world to come into." The broadcast was a risk, revealing their location to potential enemies, but it was a risk they had to take. As the cameras rolled, Aria and Zexlor stood side by side, their differences striking yet their unity undeniable. "People of Earth and Kryll," Aria began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "We come to you not as separate species, but as parents-to-be, filled with the same hopes and fears as any expecting family." Zexlor continued, his skin pulsing with emotion. "Our child is not a threat to either of our worlds, but a symbol of what we can achieve together. The advancements we've already made in medicine, in technology, in understanding the very fabric of life itself, all because two individuals from different worlds dared to love." As they spoke, sharing the incredible discoveries made during the pregnancy and their hopes for the future, something unexpected happened. Aria's skin began to glow, brighter than ever before. Zexlor's luminescence intensified in response, and a soft, melodic hum filled the air. Across Earth and Kryll, viewers watched in awe as the expectant parents seemed to merge into a single radiant being for a brief moment. It was beautiful, ethereal, and undeniably powerful. As the glow faded, Aria gasped, clutching her belly. "The baby," she breathed. I think it's time." The broadcast cut off abruptly, leaving millions of viewers on both planets in suspense. In Haven, it was organized chaos as the medical team rushed Aria to the delivery room. Zexlor never left her side, his presence a constant comfort as she faced the unknown. But even as Aria prepared to bring new life into the universe, darker forces were on the move. A fleet of ships, a motley crew of human and Kryllian extremists, was approaching Haven, determined to stop the birth at any cost. As Aria's labor intensified, alarms blared throughout the facility. They were under attack. Dr. Rossi looked up from her position at the foot of Aria's bed, her face pale but determined. "We need to keep going. This baby is coming, and it might be our only hope." Zexlor squeezed Aria's hand, his skin pulsing in time with the contractions racking her body. "You can do this, my love. Our child will be born, and it will change everything." As Aria pushed, pouring all her strength and love into bringing their child into the world, explosions rocked the facility. The protective dome flickered, straining against the assault. In this moment, suspended between creation and destruction, the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. The next few hours would determine not just the future of Aria and Zexlor's child, but the very course of interstellar history. The medical bay shook with another explosion, dust raining from the ceiling. Dr. Rossi steadied herself, her eyes never leaving Aria. "One more push, Aria. You're almost there." Aria gritted her teeth, squeezing Zexlor's hand with superhuman strength. With a final, monumental effort, she pushed. The room filled with a blinding light, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, cutting through the chaos, came the unmistakable cry of a newborn. Dr. Rossi's voice was filled with awe. It's beautiful." The child was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its skin shimmered with a pearlescent glow, shifting between human tones and Kryllian luminescence. Eyes that seemed to hold the depth of galaxies blinked up at them, already alert and aware. As Zexlor carefully placed the baby in Aria's arms, another explosion rocked the facility. The protective dome flickered ominously. Dr. Chen burst into the room, his face ashen. "We're out of time. The dome is failing. We need to evacuate now." But as they prepared to move, something extraordinary happened. The newborn child began to glow, emitting a soft, pulsating light that spread outward, enveloping Aria, Zexlor, and then the entire room. Outside, the attacking forces watched in disbelief as the faltering dome was replaced by a shimmering, opalescent barrier. Their weapons, so effective moments ago, now dissipated harmlessly against its surface. Inside the facility, Aria and Zexlor exchanged a look of wonder. "Our child," Aria whispered. "It's protecting us." The baby cooed, its tiny hands reaching out. As Aria and Zexlor both touched their child, a surge of emotion and understanding passed between them. In that moment, they saw visions of a future filled with unity, of Earth and Kryll working together to explore the cosmos, of advancements that would propel both species to new heights. Dr. Rossi's voice broke the spell. "The attackers, they're standing down, and you need to see this." She activated a view screen, showing scenes from around the world. The shimmering barrier around Haven had somehow connected with every communications device on Earth and Kryll. Everyone, from government leaders to ordinary citizens, was experiencing the same vision of hope and unity. As the hours passed, reports flooded in. The extremist movements were dissolving, their members overwhelmed by the shared experience of connection. World leaders were calling for immediate peace talks and collaborative efforts. In the days that followed, as news of the miraculous birth spread, the mood across both planets shifted dramatically. Fear and suspicion gave way to curiosity and hope. Scientists clamored to study the child's unique abilities, while philosophers and religious leaders debated the implications of this new form of life. Aria and Zexlor named their child Nova, a name that spoke of new beginnings and brilliant light. As Nova grew, it became clear that they were more than just a hybrid of two species. They were a bridge capable of facilitating understanding and connection between humans, Kryllians, and, as they would later discover, other sentient species across the galaxy. 1 year after Nova's birth, Aria stood on a platform before a vast crowd, representing both Earth and Kryll. Zexlor stood beside her, Nova cradled in his arms. "Today," Aria announced, her voice carrying across the hushed audience, "we take our first step into a new era. The United Galactic Council is no longer a dream, but a reality. With representatives from Earth, Kryll, and a growing number of other worlds, we embark on a journey of exploration, understanding, and unity." As applause erupted, Aria looked at her family. Zexlor's skin pulsed with pride and love, while Nova's eyes sparkled with the promise of infinite possibilities. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and obstacles to overcome. But as Aria gazed out at the sea of faces, human, Kryllian, and others, she felt a surge of hope. Their impossible love had created something miraculous, a child who embodied the very best of both worlds. And in doing so, they had opened the door to a future brighter than anyone could have imagined. As the newly formed United Galactic Council prepared to convene its first session, with Nova as its symbolic heart, Aria and Zexlor shared a quiet moment. "Did you ever imagine," Zexlor asked, his voice soft with wonder, "that our love would change the course of history?" Aria smiled, leaning into him as they watched Nova babble happily in the arms of a Kryllian diplomat. "No," she admitted, "but I'm glad we were brave enough to find out." As they stepped forward to take their places in the new galactic order, Aria felt a sense of profound gratitude. Their journey had been fraught with danger and uncertainty, but it had led to this moment, the dawn of a new age of interstellar cooperation and understanding. And it had all begun with a simple, impossible love between two beings from different worlds. The end of their personal story was just the beginning of a greater one, a tale of unity, exploration, and the boundless potential of a universe where love knew no boundaries.